Amid concerns over the high cost of food, experts have been providing insightful suggestions on how to effectively tackle the challenges and make essential food items more accessible to all Nigerians. Recall, the federal government has continued to make substantial interventions in the agricultural sector for the overall development of the sector in the country. But what more needs to be done to address the current challenges of high cost of food in the country? Well, to provide some insight now, I'm joined by the General Manager of Labana Rice Mills Limited, Mr. Hassan Yusuf. He joins me now virtually. Thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf, for your time.
Thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be here with you.
All right. So, in recent time, we've seen the federal government take, cognizant steps to address the rising cost of food by issuing a directive for the release of grain from the National Reserve. Additionally, he has also met with the state governors and also directed them to increase food production. Give us your understanding of this move and how this is currently impacting on prices in the market.
Okay, thank you very much. You see, let me start by saying that, first and foremost, the declaration of state of emergency on food by the federal government is a step in the right direction. At least accepting that there is really a big issue on ground, is a first step. Intervention through issuance of palliatives, to poor households, vulnerable Nigerians, including pensioners, also is another step, in the right direction. But again, let's look at it, from these are quick fixes. Let us look at it, holistically in the first place. I said this because, for more than 20 years back, the fact that there was going to be imminent, crisis in food was very evident. It was very clear, crystal clear. That was long, before events, that comes up at the international arena, like the issue of the general recessions, and crisis, that engulfed the whole world as a result of the COVID-19, the invasion, of Ukraine, invasion of.
Hello, Mr. Yusuf.
Yes.
Can you hear me, really? Yes, I needed to perhaps be a bit audible so that we can hear you clearly. Struggling to get, your line of thought there.
It's all right. So, peculiar problems, stand out, particularly. If you look at the incessant attacks, on farmers by bandits, as well, and year in year out, flooding, every year, that result in losses to farmers. That has made it very, very clear for several years back that there is going to be imminent food crisis in Nigeria. Now that this crisis, has come, and it is at a really, really dangerous level, that if care is not taken, it can lead, to something else. Public civil arrest, that nobody knows where it will head to. So I think the intervention of the government, through issues, of palliative, to the poor Nigerians, vulnerable Nigerians, as well as pensioners, is a good step, in the right direction. And like I said earlier, these are merely, quick fixes. We should look at the broader ways, of how to solve it, and that is going to be, a long time, plan. And in doing so, we have to really look at, other countries, that succeeded, or that have this similar experience and directly, copy, from their best practices, in approaching, these issues. So I think these are the major issues. And when I'm looking at, the current, which is the quick fixes, I think we should really concentrate, on that. Most of the problems that we have, in this country in implementing government policies, majorly is along transparency and accountability. Help, and assistance, going, to the wrong hands, instead of going, to the right people. And I think the government, should establish, a machinery in motion, right hand, the right people. If that is done, I think, a lot of crises, can be averted. A huge to make this program a success. I think government, should involve all parties involved. The civil societies, people in the opposition, the rice mill, all the people in the agro processors, seen, to be done, transparently, and the system of accountability, should be imposed, to ensure this becomes.
All right, Mr. Yusuf. Talking about I get your point. Talking about getting everyone involved. Yes, I know that the federal government has accused, some people in the past of sabotaging this effort. If you look at price fixing, food hoarding, with food inflation at 35.41%, what steps are farmers like you, stakeholders like you, taking to complement the efforts of the federal government without taking advantage of the situation?
Every one of us, in the food processing industry, at this material time, we are just trying, to meet up, the challenge in partnering, with the government, to ensure that at least we have contributed, our own quota, in ensuring that at least this has become, a success. Partly, I can tell you that at the rate where the processors, like rice processors, are buying paddy, we are buying it in such a way that we make minimal profit, and even the minimal profit we make is up, provision, for prepayment and depreciation, and that is to tell you the kind of the huge sacrifice we are making. I think we are determined, to continue. We are trying, our best, to complement also the government, in trying, to see we partner with them, in other areas like, skill development, youth empowerment, as well as, ensuring that we produce despite in such a way that at least it will be available. But we have these our challenges, and we'll come to that, later. I can give you some of the examples we have. You see, some of the problems, we have in respect of these issues are restlessness, youth restlessness as a result, of employment.
Hello, Mr. Yusuf.
As well as like in Labana rice mills, we recently introduced, an apprenticeship program that ensured that we employ a large number, of able-bodied young Nigerians, to be trained on the various aspects, of our production. By the time, we do that, and within a period of 6 months, to 1 year, we'll be able, to develop virtually all of them, in various aspects of our operations. And we can easily employ all of them, any one of them that is interested. We are not employing, we are paying them, allowances, for the period, so that at least, they can meet up, with transportation costs and also feeding costs.
What are some of the challenges, Okay, I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you just finished speaking, but let me quickly come in now. What are some of the challenges facing, farmers, and how would you suggest the government can address them? Because we understand, yes, the issue of security is there, but then again, we've seen in time past the intervention of the federal government, such as fertilizer distribution and all of that. But currently, speak to us, what are some of the challenges now that farmers are facing that the government needs to address that will impact significantly on the current situation?
You see, the farmers were left to their own devices. There was no supervision, there was no interest, there was no follow-up, on what they are doing. There is no feedback back to the government. And that is why the issue I mentioned earlier on the transparency and accountability aspect. The last regime, the immediate past government, was able, to open the vaults of central bank, issues loans in alcohol loans, to the farmers. But because these things were not done, transparently, nobody can tell who were given these loans. Are they just are they farmers, or just political party followers? And after giving those loans, what did the government do, after giving out these loans? Did it follow up, to ensure that at least that funds that were given to them were optimally utilized? Have they formed them into some kind of cooperatives? Have they followed up, to listen to them and understand, their challenges? If there's enough, or sufficient agri extension, and training programs, for the farmers, all these were not done. And except all these things, were done, I think the farmers, will continue to wallow in pain. Now, the monies given to those farmers, most of it are not recovered and are not recoverable. And I can assure you that the federal government will be just lucky to recover about 30%, of these loans. And that is terrible. And that is enough to discourage, the government. So I think the way out, is for the government not only, to support, the farmers directly, provide, subsidy, grant them access, to finances, both from federal government, and commercial bank, with a single low and single digit interest rates, and follow up, with other assistance like subsidies, on farm inputs like fertilizers, and water pumping machine, and so many other things. I think these are the ways. Let the farmers feel belong. Let the farmers see that the federal government, through its various agencies at state level and federal level, are also interested in them and continuously listening to them and providing solutions that is done even in our neighboring, sister countries that are much poorer than us. I think if we develop interest in this, Nigeria, through the low farmer holders, and the other bigger farmers, Nigeria will be able, to be the biggest, food processing country, in the whole of Africa. I think that's just my take on that.
Well, I'm aware that currently, the federal government, does have that arrangement in terms of fertilizer and all of that to farmer, but I don't know how much of that information you have. But let's talk about rice, which is the most consumed commodity today by Nigerians. How much is a bag of rice as of today? And what are your recommendations to drive down the price?
Yeah, currently, rice by the rice milling, because there are two categories, of rice millers. There are smaller, rice milling, organizations, and there are the bigger rice milling organizations. Each one of them, with, its capacity and so consequently its requirement, for the raw product, which is paddy. Now, the paddy is very, very scarce, and following the rule of economics, naturally, as the more commodity is scarce, the more expensive it is. Now, this commodity in the market now, the rice paddy, is not enough, to meet up even, let's say, 40%, of the requirement, of the rice milling industry, in Nigeria. So currently, the rice millers are buying the paddy, so expensively that really it has to forgo a lot of things if it wants to sell it, at least an appropriate price. Let me just give you an example. Just 3 months ago, paddy is being purchased, by rice millers here in Kebbi State, where it's close, to the center of, of the paddy production. Paddy is being purchased, at around 350 naira per kg. As I'm talking to you now, we are procuring it, at 570 naira, per kilogram. You can see the big gap. And this thing is continuously rising. 2 days ago, it was 550. Today it's 570. Chances are that it will be 600, by in 2 days' time. So really, we just have to produce it and sell it like that. Now, from our own angle, we are selling it, between the prices of 58,000 naira, between the price of 57, to 59,000 naira, depending on the rice mills and its location. But you can see the market is going at about 17 naira per bag, per 50 kg bag. So this is an alarming situation. As for us, we are doing our best, to make sure that we produce and sell this rice at minimal cost, foregoing, the consequences of the fact that we're just making marginal profits, not enough, to cover our prepayments, and some cost of depreciation.
Let you go now. Thank you so much. Mr. Yusuf, Al-Hassan Yusuf is the General Manager of Labana Rice Mills Limited. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Business Nigeria.